Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are back with something very exciting. We did see the stream last night from SCS Software, and they weren't giving much away on Euro Truck Sim 135. They showed us a few roads, but they didn't want to answer any questions or anything. And lo and behold, today, literally, well, probably not 30 minutes ago, it's appeared on Steam. So here we are for the first time on DirectX11 on experimental version 1.35. Now I know the picture's a bit jerky at the moment because I'm probably pushing my computer close to its limits, so excuse that. As soon as I go into the game, it should sort itself out. So I'm just setting up and getting ready. Yep, we have got a live stream, which seems to be working pretty well. Okay, let's go into the game and see how it runs. I might have to adjust some settings just to make sure everything works smoothly because, well, I'm new to this DirectX 11 stuff with Euro Truck and I'm not quite sure how my computer's going to handle it. I just did a quick little job and I have never seen the game run so smoothly. I cannot stress that enough. The game was as smooth as silk. I've tried it on 1440. My little GTX 980 seems to handle that okay, but there's a bit of drop off in frame rate. I think at the moment, I can't remember what graphics settings we're on, but never mind. I think we're on 1440 at the moment. So let's press the all important drive button and take her for a spin, see what happens. If you just joined us, good afternoon. Full of excitement here because I haven't streamed with this for the last 2 days because I've been having god awful problems getting the program to run smoothly. And after watching last night's stream from SCS and feeling a little bit disappointed because I didn't really think that they told us much at all, I noticed this come up today, and it's a case of right, off we go. Let's just, we're at Southampton, let's just pick something tiny just to get the game working. We have got nothing that stays in the UK, so what have we got? Luxembourg, that's not too far away. Düsseldorf pays a bit more. Of course, we want to earn some money as well. Geneva, Nuremberg. What have we got? Oh, that looks like it. 32.48. Oh, 40. Let's give this one a go. And see what we get out of it. So, where's the map telling me where the job is? Is it in here? Not that side. Where's my job? Where is my job? Set GPS, please set GPS. Am I being particularly blonde here and doing something wrong? Perhaps it's in this yard and I've got to press enter. Let's have a look. What's in this yard? Freight market. It is. So why didn't it just tell me where the job was straight away? That would have been so much nicer of it. Never mind. Right, let's get in the mirrors. See if we can get this thing loaded up in one go. I'm still quite new to the game, so my reversing techniques are absolutely pitiful. And like a fool, I put advanced coupling on just to make life even harder for myself. Why wouldn't you? Right, now as I said, we're probably pushing my machine a little bit. It's only it's a little MSI gaming laptop that I've got. So at 1440, I'm not expecting full graphics, and with streaming through the graphics card as well, I'm probably asking a bit much out of this little thing. Well, we will give it a go. So, no, we're still hitting the odd 60s here and there, so I'm not going to complain too much about that. Okay, I've got a little bit of lag there, but nothing too thing. If you look in the top left hand corner, you can see it is DirectX 11. Now, in order to get that, you have to modify the CFG file in Notepad, and you'll see there's a R underscore used device, I think it is, which will have dx9 in it. Just change the 9 to an 11 and save it, and you should be good to go. Let's put that on cruise control because I'm really blooming lazy. There's lots of new things in 1.35, including more choices on how stable you want your cab to be, how stable you want your trailer to be when you're driving along, and no, you want to go straight on. There was another option which I'm trying to think of. There was the stability. It's just gone out of my head completely. Right, okay. As I thought, I'm probably pushing my card a little bit much. Maybe I should have stayed with 1080. But you see, now normally on DirectX 9, when I drop down to less than 60 frames a second, it's like a huge stutter. Now, although this isn't 100% smooth at the moment, probably because of the streaming, you can see, I mean, I'm on like 4750, but the game still appears to be relatively smooth, which is absolutely magnificent. Because I do like this game, but as I said, I've had a couple of days of major frustration trying to get it to work smoothly. And at one stage, trying to drive in town was almost impossible. But now it's performing a hell of a lot better. I'm just looking. Right, DirectX 11 has increased my CPU usage. On DirectX 9 I was running at about 20%, and I'm now up to about 44%. Although it's coping with it quite well. But overall though, what a difference. I mean, normally 60, it drops down to 56, 57, and every time it did it, there was a stutter, a mini freeze, you know, whatever you want to call it. And at the moment, it's completely drivable. You have to excuse me, I've still got this damn man flu, killer disease. But it's not showing any signs of disappearing, no matter how many vitamin pills I take and God knows what else. So what I thought I might do is do this one quickly. It's only sort of relatively small job, 379 miles compared to what I normally do. And then I might shove it back down to 1080p, but to be honest, since I've had a 1440 monitor, I've got so used to gaming in it, and 1080 just doesn't look right these days. But literally, I thought, I installed it, I got the DirectX 11 working, and I thought, well, let's give it a go on YouTube, put the machine under a bit of pressure, and see how the game performs, and well, you see, it's it's 100% better than it was, without a doubt. I might just have to adjust some of the graphics, just to smooth it out a little bit. I think at the moment we're on running it on 125%. If I bring it down to 100, that might help it somewhat. But well, we'll see. Of course, because it's 135 experimental, the main problem with that is I've had to get rid of all of the mods. So, no Pro Mods 2.40, which I've got to say I was thoroughly enjoying. And the problem I had with DirectX 9 was it didn't seem to matter if I had any mods installed or not. I was getting a very laggy driving experience. Although this isn't 100% at the moment, as I said, possibly because I'm pushing my little laptop a bit further than I should, but it's very drivable. It's not sort of like massive stop starts and all the rest of it. It is running quite smoothly. Um, let's just have a quick look at the graphical settings. I'm thinking I might be pushing it a little bit too much. Right, so we're 100% scaling. I'll turn down some of these. I think maybe if I turn down the mirror qualities a little bit. Let's mirror distance. Let's try that on high. Actually, that might have been enough to do the job. Anti-tropic filtering, blah 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 blah. Right, let's see if it copes with that any better. I was waiting for a confirmation thing to come up then, and it never did. Oops. Often happens when I restart after altering something. Oh, there we go. Right, just that little adjustment on the mirrors seems to have made all the difference. More reliably up around about 60 frames per second. Right. I think I'm probably very fortunate in that I've only owned the game a few days, and well, it's been out since 2012, and I know people have been struggling with frame rates and stutters and everything else for a very long time now. And for those of us that have got sort of like, I suppose, GTX 9 series and upwards, DirectX 11 will help us out. Now, when I got the notification for this on Steam that the beta was, well, it wasn't even a notification, I've just been checking it hourly to be honest, but as of yet, or 5 minutes before I started the stream, there's no mention of this on the SCS websites or anything. And the only reason I knew about the DirectX 11, because it will still when you set it up, come up with DirectX 9 standard. The only reason I knew anything about that is I was watching a couple of videos about the 135 experimental on American Truck Sim, and sort of guessed and hoped that this would be the same. And lo and behold, yeah, changing the CFG file, changing it from DX9 to DX11 in there, does the job, 100%. It's reporting to be on DirectX 11 through MSI, call it. So I'd imagine it is, but I'm not used to driving it with this few sort of like stutters in it and all the rest of it. And I've got to say, I think it looks better for it as well. Now, that might be me on wishful thinking, I'm not sure. But to me, in general, it just looks brighter, dare I use the word, a bit more vibrant. So we're coming into a busy section. We've lost maybe 10 frames per second. No, it doesn't tell me to... Well, I suppose it does tell me to turn off. Now, I've got to be honest, I actually prefer the ferry crossing. I've had another nasty experience with the tunnel. I did one of the when I got my profile up, I did something like a 60-ton job, massive, great big crane on the back of the on the loader, and I came here. I got on the train, no problem. It was going, woohoo! Got to the got to the other end, and just about managed to get up the slope at the other end, but then the whole thing grounded out. I couldn't go any further, and I didn't know about the emergency call thing at that time, so I ended up abandoning the job, which was a bit annoying. Alright, so we've lost a bit of frame rates going into busy places like this with a lot of activity, but it seems to be doing okay. Certainly it's a far smoother experience than I'm used to having with it. Alright, another little something to mention. You need to change, when you use 135 experimental, you need to change the full screen mode on it. If you run it on full screen and then alt tab, you won't be able to get back onto the game again, and you'll sort of like have to crash out the game and restart it. So run it non-full screen, and it will run a borderless full screen window, if you get what I mean. And that way you can still alt tab and do whatever else you got to do, and comfortably get back into the game again when you want to. So we did travel, didn't we? Yeah, of course we did. This is one place I've never got a speeding ticket. The other thing that I've noticed, it doesn't seem to be synchronising with welder trucks at the moment, so I wasn't able to select any of their jobs. Probably something to do with it being experimental, and I know that there may be a few other things that won't work, etc, etc. So it is a use at your own risk, but if like me you were getting fed up with the stuttering and you couldn't solve it and it was driving you insane, and you've got a newer machine, I think this will probably make you very, very happy, even though you've got no mods and no other little luxuries to go along with it. I was just trying to keep an eye on the frame rate, and I'm really impressed that when the frame rate drops, it's not stuttering. It's just, you can notice it still, but it doesn't completely spoil the drive of the thing, which it was doing on DirectX 9. So what are we on, 56 limit? That's alright. Still trying to build my profile up, although it's gotten a lot better. I think we're around about level 17 or something, if I remember right. So, God, keep turning that off. I've got a few more horsepowers under the seat compared to what I'm used to. I don't know if it was me. Going back to World of Trucks. Now at the moment I'm not using the fatigue simulation, and the World of Truck jobs, when I pick them up, the online freight or whatever you call it, every time I come to deliver it, it's like with 1 minute to spare, even though I've got no rest breaks or anything. So I'm guessing that they know what setups you've got, and you know whether you're programmed for a rest break or not, and adjust the times likewise. I arrived on one job. I was like 1 minute late to the destination. Well, no, I was to the destination on time, but by the time I parked the truck, the timer had run out, and it cost me £9. I was like, what the? I felt robbed, completely robbed. Let's go and get some fuel. We might have enough to do the journey, but let's go and get some fuel anyway. Oh no. Oh, maybe that was a mistake because they're all queuing up waiting. Come on. Beep beep beep. No, bored with waiting. Completely bored with waiting. Let's get out of here. We'll go to the next one. There we go. Frame rate drops down to about 40. You can see it on the graphics, but it still remains drivable. Right. But as a driving experience, I think it has improved for the addition of DirectX 11. Now, as I understand it, it's not fully implemented, so you know, don't expect shadows everywhere where you think DirectX 11 would put shadows, because it might not be the case at the moment. And as I said, I mean, experimental is experimental, so if it crashes your game, costs you 100,000 or something because you've lost loads and all the rest of it, you've been warned. CPU usage is definitely gone up. Now, some of that will be down to OBS running. Oh, here comes the rain, as Annie Lennox would say. Why are my wipers not working? Oh, I might have to reset it, because I think now another thing we get in the update is we've got three speed wipers. Wipers back. What is wipers back? Oh, that's my normal wipers button. Hoping I don't have to load up another one, because oh, look at that, fast wipers. I'm expecting the frame rate to take a tank a bit when it's raining, but it's doing alright. And the stuttering and everything is noticeably different to what I'm used to. It's still there. That's probably the lowest frame rate I've seen so far. As I say, I mean, being I'm streaming and that's done via the video card on my setup, I'm playing an experimental version of the game. I'm quite pleased. And I say, so far though, 135, I'm impressed. It's well, from my experience in the last couple of days, which as said has been pretty dreadful, even now when the frame rate drops down, it's still very drivable. And before, when the frame rate dropped down for me, I just got massive freezes in, you know, the steering inputs didn't match what you were doing, and it was just causing massive problems. But so you got no lights on? Sort of lights, but they're not very good on the back of that truck. Oh, come on. I'm not driving to Amsterdam at 28 miles an hour. Alright, the other thing I was going to mention, on Steam, when you right click on the game title and go to properties, it doesn't say much at all. When you sort of like go to the beta section, it just says experimental beta. There's no version number on it at all. As I said, when I looked on the website, there was no mention of DirectX 11 or anything like that. So, you know, if you want to try the DirectX 11 side of it, you're going to have to do that yourself with a CFG file. And we know from last night's stream from SCS that they've put in loads of new roads. We've got an extra speed on the wipers, new trailers with configurable wheel sets. You know, you can move them forward or backwards depending on where you want the weight over the wheels. I think they've done quite a lot with this. Of course, there's no mention about next DLC or anything, which I'm okay with, because I've only had the game for a few days. So, when I've got all the major DLCs, I didn't buy all the paint jobs and everything, but I brought all the major map ones, and I think I brought the trailers and a couple of other bits and pieces. Alright, so maybe we are going to be driving to Amsterdam at 30 miles an hour. We got whoa, 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 whoa. And we got left 143 miles. And I'm just having a brief look at my little tablet, and well, no, it's a little tablet. It looks pretty smooth on that. But the settings that I had without streaming, as I said, which I used the video card to stream with, I used the new OBS NVENC decoder. I was getting a solid 60 frames per second at 1440p. Looked absolutely beautiful. I did expect streaming to take some of that away, but even so, I mean, it's just so much smoother than it has been in the past for me. I was watching them on the SCS stream last night. I was watching them demonstrate this Tobii eye tracking device. I say, I might be saving up for one of those. Looks rather interesting and helpful when you need to look in mirrors and whatnot. But the worst thing for me at the moment is I've lost my travelling companion. Normally, there's a pussycat sitting on my passenger seat. It's a Silos model or something like that. I did have a woman sitting there, but she never said anything, never did anything, you know, just looked straightforward all the time. I sacked her and replaced her with a cat. And of course, now I haven't got a cat. Never mind. Being that I'm new to the game, I'm not sure how long it takes the modders to catch up with new versions and whatnot, or even if they will change versions for, and if they will change their mods for an experimental version. Also kind of wondering on how long this is going to remain experimental. I was reading some of the ATS threads on the forums, and that seems to be doing quite well with its experimental 135, so people will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the ETS and ATS are practically the same game, just with different maps and models inside. And of course, I imagine, like most people, I'm hoping that pro mods are pretty quick on the case when it comes to 135 and updating it as well. Because some of the stuff in their maps is just absolutely gorgeous. I'm a Londoner, and I went round the North Circular, just sort of like where it joins the A1M1, and that looked pretty good round there. And there was another section that's further east. I'm trying to remember what junction it was, but as soon as I got to the junction, I instantly recognised it was a case of, oh, I know this junction. Although the buildings weren't quite right, the actual road layout was just spot on. Uh, like I say, I don't know how long it's going to take them to do a conversion, and if they will bother for an experimental. Uh, but I'm new enough to the game that playing vanilla is not going to bother me one little bit, because I've explored next to nothing so far in this game. So any frame rate drops that I'm getting at the moment are acting completely differently to what I'm used to. Normally it's a stutter, and at the moment it's not. It's like a warp sensation, but I much prefer a little bit of warping compared to the stutter. So that was just driving me insane, trying to get rid of that. Literally, I must have spent 2 days on the old interwebs looking at forums and video forums, 8chan, 4chan, you name it. I was looking at it, trying to get information on how to fix it, and I was like, nope, couldn't find anything useful that actually did the job. So, like these 3-speed wipers though, it's a bit more realistic, I think. So we've got 54 miles to go. And I think what I'll do is change a few settings, because I'm going to have to change. Oh, there's a bit of a lag there. I'm going to have to change OBS and a few other bits and pieces to make it happen, but mainly because I'm using upscaling on OBS. But what I'm going to do is go back down to 1080p, which, as I said, I don't particularly like myself, because I've been used to 1440 for so long now. I might drop down to 1080p and give that a go streaming and see how it does. I mean, to get 1440, I had to enter that manually in the CFG. I couldn't do it within the game software, so and it was there in the previous version. So I would imagine they've done that because they probably expect it to have some problems. But at the moment, she's doing fine. Now, one question somebody might be able to answer for me. I've got no traffic sounds, i.e. when lorries, cars go past, I don't hear them. And yet if I put Pro Mods on, I do. Now, are traffic sounds in the vanilla game? Should I be able to hear sort of like trucks and stuff whizzing past in the opposite lane? Right. If somebody can answer that for me, that would be handy. 'Cause if I'm supposed to have other sounds going on, then somewhere I've got to work out why I haven't. Unless they're just quiet. I mean, all the other sound effects I've got, sort of like road bumps, running over the rumble strips, I can hear them. It's just like the other environmental sounds that seem to be missing, and I don't know if they're missing in the sense of they were never there in the first place and only put in as part of a mod, or if they're missing because something's wrong. So if anybody can help out with that, please do. Okay, well, verdict for me is it's working much better. Rather than a stutter, we've got a bit of a warping effect going on. Um, but as I say, I mean, if I wasn't streaming it, it would be working a hell of a lot better. And I think the performance issues are probably down to me using a laptop. Although it's a gaming laptop, the GTX 980M that I've got in mine isn't equivalent to a full size GTX 980M. I don't know what it's equivalent to, but you can't expect the full size card, the mini card, to do the same as a full size card. Although I've still got 8 megabytes of RAM or 8 gigs of RAM on it or whatever. It's not a small one, but I was looking at upgrading it to a 1080 mobile variant. Oh my god, it would cost me virtually the same to buy a new laptop. I could get a decent laptop for the price of just getting the video card in it, so maybe it's time for me to change to a tower system again. It's just at the time we got the laptop that was going to be the most useful to me because I was in and out of hospital quite a lot and stuck in bed quite a lot, so things have been a bit better for quite some time now, so touch wood. Well, that was a very, very quick job to Amsterdam. London was just round the corner. I get to preview some of my absolutely terrible parking skills and reversing skills. Whoa! I didn't quite expect that to be there. Oops. Over the ramp. I shouldn't have too much trouble parking this one. It's not the hardest reversing job in the world, but I can make anything look difficult sometimes. Come on, get in there. If it goes green, I'm happy. And it's gone green. Okay, well, I think I'm going to make some changes. maybe try 1080p or something and see how that copes with being streamed and the game played at the same time. So anyway, a brief introduction to 1.35, some of the things it will do, some of the things it won't do. As I said, important things to remember: if you want DirectX 11, you've got to change it in the CFG file. Don't use full screen, because if you tab out of it, you won't be able to get back into it. So you want to change it into borderless full screen or whatever you can change it to. And other than that, have a great deal of fun with it. Anyway, for the time being, that is me. I will catch you guys later.